about a subject that I don't normally get too involved with. It's just that I've seen so much, even in the news, on other channels that focus on prepping and survival, that it seems to be everybody, or the majority, are focusing on, the 10 different items that you must have as a survivalist if you're going to make it. The 50 items that you have to have. And I guess I have a different take on it, as usual. I wanted to get everybody thinking a little bit about being prepared for, and these situations can be anything. It could be anything from war, could be, the U.S. is sitting on top of the Yellowstone volcano, which could be pretty devastating for, at least half that country if it ever did pop. And, there are a lot of situations that could cause long-term breakdown of our system where we can't get the things that we're used to having. Most commonly, we'd be out of power in terms of electricity, which, let's face it, it operates almost everything that we've got. But as far as prepping goes, and I don't have anything against that. That's a new term to me because, back in the day when I grew up, everybody stored up food for off-season. You had a garden or a corn crop in the field or whatever it was, or all of them, and you just naturally kept some of it in the freezer to last you through until the next season. That's just the way it was. But I'm seeing people collecting vast amounts of items that I don't know that they're going to help you that much. Firearms. Okay, that's a good idea to have a firearm or two, or three, whatever, and an adequate supply of ammunition so that when if you have to hunt or whatever, you have the ability to get out and do it. But all of the gear that you might have, and some of these videos, the 50 most necessary things that you must have, you have to have the skills to go with that. Most of that gear, honestly, probably isn't worth much, really, and having the skills to use it and to know when to use it and to know what to have is by far of much, much greater importance. Think of the vast quantity of supplies that you're going to have to be able to have. Even to make such a list would be a daunting task. I can't even imagine making such a list. I mean, every single little item, whatever you forget or that you haven't got enough of or you run out of, you'll never get it again. The cost financially to acquire all that stuff would be, who knows what it would be, but it would be a lot. Just storing that quantity of items, it would take a warehouse. I mean, there's yourself, maybe your wife, maybe a couple of children. So you need 4 times whatever is on your list to last however many years you think you're going to need to do it. That would take a vast amount of storage space. Not just space, but you'd have to make sure that it was safe from the weather. It would have to be somewhere where it won't spoil, or stored in such a way where it won't spoil. You won't have refrigeration. And almost worse than everything, it would have to be safe from other people, because as soon as other people are not prepared and they realize that you've got a stockpile of anything useful, they're going to be coming to get it, and we know that's a fact. How are you going to deal with that? Neighbors, possibly even your best friends, know that you've got these things. They don't have them, and they come to you looking for a handout. That puts you in a pretty tough situation. Are you going to share? Or are you going to say no? You've spent years maybe and a lot of money accumulating the materials that you need to keep yourself and your family safe. Those other people, no matter how good a friend they are, had the opportunity to do the same thing, but they didn't. And now they want what you've worked hard to have. If you share with them and use up your supplies with other people, then you're jeopardizing all you've worked for as far as keeping your own family and your own group, safe and supplied with the things that are necessary. So once your neighbor or your best friend finds out that it's not your intention to share, but how many days do you think they're going to sit there at their home with their kids hungry, crying themselves to sleep with an empty stomach, while they know you're sitting up at your place with a basement packed to the brim with food? How long before desperation forces that person to take action against you? Very possibly violent action. And if that's the case, how are you going to respond? How much violence will you use in order to protect what's yours? This person who is your best friend, is now beating down your door with the intention of forcefully taking what you've worked hard to have for your family. You're going to fight with them? You're going to give in and jeopardize your resources for your own family? You're going to get them into a shooting match with them? How far is it going to go? How far are you willing to go? That's never going to happen. Or that's never going to happen to me, or I don't have to worry about it, or the government will take care of me. Even assuming that the government was willing to take care of you, they simply can't possibly deal with having to take care of what at that point might be millions of people. So, if you think that's going to save you, maybe you better reconsider a little bit. And then in the event that there's perhaps a natural disaster, or whatever the case may be, sooner or later you may need to move. You may need to relocate simply because circumstances won't allow you, for whatever reason, to stay where you originally were. If that's the case, how in the world are you ever going to move that stuff? And then the situation also arises that at some point in time, the situation may last longer than you originally thought it would, and your supplies are running low. Even if you've managed to somehow bypass all these other pitfalls, what happens when your supplies run low? How much can you supplement what you've got with what you're going to be able to pick up along the way? Everybody else is going to be picking up stuff along the way. Don't think it's just going to be laying there. No more stores, no more shopping, no more anything. What would be the alternative to all of this? Well, sometimes it just isn't one. Sometimes, with all the best intentions, all the best preparations and whatever, sometimes the bear just gets you. But I think skills are by far, and tools. If you've got skills you've developed, if you spent the same amount of time developing skills that you spent collecting that vast hoard of materials, you developed the skills and acquired the tools that you need for those specific skills, you'd be way better off. Skills, you'll have them forever, for the rest of your life. You could pass those skills on to whoever you've got with you in your group, and they would be sustainable. Sustainability is what we're talking about here. Survivability is something that happens, on an emergency situation. It's a short-term deal. A couple days, you don't have to do a long-term survival situation, because it never lasts that long. Somebody will come looking for you. Hopefully not any of these scruffy mutts. Or klutzy ones. The skills that I'm talking about are the skills of the woodsman, the skills, the abilities to build yourself a shelter, cut your firewood, do it safely without injuring yourself. If you're out in a situation where you don't have help available other than what you have, a serious injury can actually be fatal. It doesn't have to be a fatal injury. It could be just infection that gets you eventually. The things that you never think of, I make my own soap. I do it because I like doing it, but also it's a handy skill to have. I think it's imperative that you have some skills at getting rid of black flies, for one thing, at fishing, and some hunting and trapping. You need to be able to catch things for food. You need to be able to put them in in storage or get them prepared for the table. You need to be able to clean a fish, you need to be able to field dress a larger animal, and then you need to be able to cut it up. As far as trapping goes, traps are a very handy thing to have. I have probably a dozen or more. I'm not a trapper at this time. I don't need to have a trapping license in order to own traps in this country. I just need to do it if I'm going to actually be a trapper. However, in an emergency situation, that all changes, of course. So the thing about a trap is you set it out there, and you can be doing other jobs, and the trap is still working for you 24 hours a day. So a very, very important thing to have as far as gathering food. You need to be able to recognize edible wild plants, berries, trees, and various other things you can get from them. For example, sphagnum moss is a very good antiseptic. It's a natural source of iodine, so in the case of an injury where you've got a cut, and if you happen to be where you haven't got other supplies, you can pack that onto the wound, and it will be a real good thing for helping keep it clean. Sphagnum moss also holds over 20 times its own weight in water, so it's a very good way to either maintain water to keep things from drying out. Also, sphagnum moss is a higher R value in the insulation per inch than the big, 15.5-inch bats that we put into the walls of our homes. You get a 4-inch bat of insulation, it's an R12. So obviously that's R3 per inch. Sphagnum moss is I believe it's 3.26 or 3.62, but it's slightly higher than the regular insulation. So there's just resources upon resources upon resources that we can get from nature. For example, all the black flies that are around me right now. Too bad we couldn't cook those things up, because we'd have an unlimited source of food. The mosquitoes here are kind of nuts. But this is basically the point. Develop these resources, the knowledge of them, the ability to recognize them. I would definitely be taking a few books with me with regards to what plants are useful for what different things, which ones are edible, how to identify them so that you can be certain that you're getting something and not a look-alike. These are critical skills that will help you get through all kinds of problems, whether it's for a matter of a week or whether it turns out to be something that's a long term. Another critical thing that I don't hear mentioned very often: take seeds and a couple shovels and hose and so on, so that you can work yourself up a garden. I very rarely ever hear anybody mention that, and yet you could take 2 or 3 seed packets of each type, take a dozen types, and what would it weigh? You could pretty near put it in your pocket and it would weigh half a pound or less. So something like that is just an opportunity that you just can't afford to miss. That's basically the kind of thing I'm talking about. You really just have to go through the types of things that you need, and then be able to find ways of providing them once you're out there. And whatever you can't provide when you're out there, then take as much of it as you can, but don't waste a lot of weight carrying things that aren't necessary. Like I said at the beginning, this isn't the type of video that I normally do, but because of where I live, these are skills that I have developed anyways, and a big part of it is because I've been interested as well. But I think these are skills that everybody should have to some degree. You don't have to be an absolute expert in every aspect of this, but some solid, basic, good quality camping gear, some good quality camping abilities. Take the kids out for a weekend, just or if you're a cottager, that type of thing. Practice some of these things. Help the kids learn some of these things. It can be a lot of fun. It's an interesting way to spend the day outdoors. Have a camera with you, and you can learn a lot and help the kids learn a lot. So again, thanks for watching. I hope this has inspired somebody to pay attention to the possibilities. We don't need to wait until after there's a Chernobyl or something like that causes us massive problems. Be proactive, be ready, and hope that it never happens. Thanks a lot. We'll see you again next time.